Rotted Reviews, and today we continue on with Patron Appreciation Month as I thank those people that have gone above and beyond in their support for me and my channel by getting their suggestions of what I am going to be watching and reviewing. And today's suggestion comes from longtime supporter Kathryn Gordon as I do a two-part review of The Babysitter and The Babysitter Killer Queen. So the way this video is going to shake out is I am going to do a spoiler-free review of The Babysitter, then I am going to do a spoiler-free review of Killer Queen, and then once those are over, I am going to go into a full spoilery discussion of both movies simultaneously. So let's go ahead and start with the first one, the 2017 movie, The Babysitter, directed by Mick G., written by Brian Duffield. So to kick this movie off, we're introduced to the character of Cole, played by Judah Lewis, who is a teenager that, well, frankly, is a bit old to have a babysitter, but regardless, he has a babysitter. His parents have a little special night every once in a while, going out to a hotel, basically being on their own, and they set him up with a babysitter, B, played by Samara Weaving. And one night, Cole decides that he wants to find out what happens after he goes to bed, so he purposefully stays awake to see what friends B has over, what she's up to, and so on and so forth. They have a fantastic relationship between the two of them. Great friends through and through, regardless of the fact that she's his babysitter. They just gel really well with one another. But regardless, he does have that curiosity about what goes on after he goes to sleep. And he ultimately pays the price for his curiosity because he finds out way more than he ever wanted to when he spies on B and her friends. Now, Mick G does bring his unique style and humor to this movie, and I admit, I'm not the biggest fan of his. I really wasn't a big fan of what he did with the Terminator franchise. He's always been a little bit more style over substance for my taste. And when this movie started out, it really looked like it was going to be going down that route. This had some well-worn tropes and some very tired storytelling to the basic premise. However, tired premise aside, this movie actually did manage to completely redeem itself and fully salvage the film by the inclusion of a high-energy atmosphere and characters that subverted their stereotypes while simultaneously somehow enforcing them. This movie wasn't afraid to have stereotypical characters and put them under the magnifying glass. Shirtless guy, shirtless for absolutely no reason, but it actually makes a point of saying that. Why is he shirtless? Because for no reason.
I still don't get it.
And instead of angry killer slasher dude, he actually manages to turn the performance on its head by having a very really and truly nothing personal kind of attitude towards things. This is simply a job that he needs to get done, something that he needs to do, and in the meantime, he has no problem cheering Cole on. Dude, great fall, way to tuck and roll. Okay, here I come, gonna get you.
Deep breath, buddy.
It brought another layer of dimension to the film that I really got on board with, and I had a lot of fun with this movie. And I would also say that the character chemistry was just off the charts with this movie. The way that Cole and B engaged with their friendship with one another really felt natural and felt like it was a true betrayal when things started going sideways in light of that realistic, heartfelt friendship that they had. Now, make no mistake, this movie does require a little bit of suspension of disbelief. Actually, a fair bit of suspension of disbelief. If you're trying to pick this apart for all the unrealistic details of what the neighbors would actually do, what the cops would actually do, what character would do what realistically, it's just not going to gel. But I submit that if you maintain that level of nitpicking the unrealistic details, you're going to wind up getting in your own way of the potentially good time you could be having with this particular movie. And on that basis of turning your brain off and really having a genuinely good time, I do heartily recommend The Babysitter. That should about do it for this spoiler-free review. Coming up next, the spoiler-free review of Babysitter Killer Queen. All right, so 2020 hasn't really been that kind to us and hasn't had a whole lot of things to cheer about and laud over. But what about the sequel to The Babysitter? Is that anything deserving of praise? So just like the first movie, this was directed by Mick G., but we changed writers with this one. And instead of Brian Duffield, we now have, Dan Lagana, Brad Morris, Jimmy Warden, and Mick G. So this was a film that was written by committee, and you know what? Kind of felt like it. This time we pick back up with Cole, and this time he's a couple of years older, only he actually looks 4 years older because in reality he was. The Babysitter was filmed in 2015, came out in 2017. This one was filmed in 2019. So there was actually 4 years of difference. But it jumps ahead too within the storyline here, and he is now a nerve-rattled wreck of a teenager. The events from the first film did not sit so well with him, and he is on antipsychotic medication, anti-anxiety medication, and nobody believed him about any of the details of the first film. They had done too good of a job cleaning up after themselves, and he feels very much on his own. Also joining him from the first movie is his friend Melanie, played by Emily Allen Lind, and a new girl is in town by the name of Phoebe, played by Jenna Ortega. And unfortunately, to Cole's dismay, when Melanie takes him out to try and get him to unwind on a spring break trip boating down a canyon river, he finds that the blood ritual is not yet done, and he is still very much a target for those wanting to complete the ceremony. So I didn't think that this was a bad movie. It's not that I didn't enjoy it. It's just a whole lot to ask for it to live up to the first movie, and I really think that it missed that by a long mile. The high energy aspects of the comedic value and the big lettering and so on and so forth that made the first one the Mick G movie that it was, I thought was actually dialed in to a fairly appropriate level to encourage that sense of fun and whimsy through the movie without going overboard. There really was a whole lot of this movie that basically just ramped up the first film, and unfortunately, the first film hit such a perfect mark that ramping it up just caused way too much overload. So although I don't think it stacks up, I do want to admit that it does offer plenty of surprises, and that sense of fun is still there front and center and works mostly. But one of the saving graces of this movie, and it's going to sound like hyperbole, but I assure you, I actually took a very measured approach to this statement. This film has one of the best soundtracks, not original scores, but just compiled soundtracks of almost any film I've ever seen, ever. The music in this movie was phenomenal, and honestly, it's worth the watch just for that. Mick G got his start as a music video director, and this highlights a lot of that talent. He brings a lot of energy and vibrancy to the visuals using the music, and it works so well in that regard. It more than makes up for a lot of the mistakes and a lot of the weird plot rabbit holes that this movie starts going down. And by the end credits, although I maintain I don't like it as much as the original, I caught myself smiling from ear to ear. So if I'm doing that, I guess I can't help but say that I do recommend The Babysitter Killer Queen. Okay, so I think that should about wrap up the spoiler-free review of both films now. I'm going to get into some spoiler-filled discussions of both films, so if you haven't seen either movie, or if you care about spoilers at all, please stop watching now. All right, let's go ahead and talk some spoilers now. So, I think one of the things that I didn't like about the second movie that put me off of it pretty much as soon as it started was the nature of the first film being almost torn apart. By and large, the best movies out there have a significant amount of character growth. And that's what Cole went through in the events of the first movie. He grew, he learned, he overcame, he got his heart broken, and he stood tall. The end of the movie had him confident, sitting on the sidewalk there, knowing that he had trounced his demons, both internally and externally. And then when the second movie starts, it's all gone. All of that character growth, all that character development, all that confidence that he built up, gone. And I got to admit, that was a frustrating thing to see. He basically turned from the cool, confident kid that stole a car and smashed it into his house into a corduroy three-piece suit wearing Wes Anderson caricature. I think a lot of the problem with the second movie is it took a lot of the core conflicts, a lot of the core character developments, character arcs, and it basically just hit the reset button and redid everything over again, only instead of in the house, it's now on this river. Then when you pair it with Mick G not knowing when the hell to stop being so Mick G-ish, it made it for a very disarming, discombobulating watch. However, the fact that Cole did go through the same character developments did kind of make it redeemed at the end a little bit at the very least, and I think that mostly just comes down to a tried and true storytelling device. Was it redundant? Absolutely. Was it enjoyable? Yes, in spite of myself, it was. And as much as this movie repeated itself, I honestly was pretty glad to have a lot of the core characters from the first movie brought back. It added a weird level of mythos to the situation, but it was easily explained with just a couple of sentences. And it's like, you know what? Fine, whatever, we're on board. Yeah, Sent from Hell, cool. But more than that, it brought back one of the things that I loved the most about the first movie, and that was Robbie Amell and his character of Max and the enthusiasm that he has for Cole as he's trying to kill him. The pure big brother enthusiasm and love that Max had for Cole, it was just one of the most refreshing and delightful things that I had seen, and I loved that in the first movie, and it went even further in the second one, and I just loved it so much. I don't know about anybody else, but that worked for me on such a deep level. Just that appreciation, seriously, nothing personal. I just need to get this blood sacrifice done. You're in my way. Sorry about this, bro, but keep on going. We love you.
Whoa! Yes, Cole! Standing up for yourself just like I showed you.
Get back, all of you, get back!
And it's not something you see in horror movies a whole lot. Usually when somebody's trying to kill somebody, it's a blind rage or it's methodical psychosis. But yeah, that level of just got to get through this, sorry about this, bro. Even to the point of when you're vanquished, the idea of being so supportive that, you know what, not even mad, you got me. It was so refreshing. I wish more movies had that level of creativity when it comes to their characters and character motivations. So I think that'll about wrap this up. Thank you very much to Kathryn Gordon for recommending me watch and review the Babysitter duology. And thank you for watching this video. Remember, next time you want to watch a horror movie, first make sure that it's good and rotted.